Hello everybody. Welcome to Léon Denis Online. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. This is just an introduction to what is going to happen every month here, okay? We'll be talking about the book After Death by Léon Denis every month here with you. Maybe then you can wonder, why After Death? Why this book and not any other book by Léon Denis? Well, I can give you two reasons for that, at least. Well, the first reason, and the most important one, is because it is a great book. Is there any better reason than that? Well, it's really a great book, and that's why. But of course, that's not the only reason. The second reason is because in this book, After Death, you can find a very good introduction to the doctrine, to Spiritism. So if the person is not acquainted, the person does not know much about Spiritism, at least he's going to discover lots of things, and he's going to know a little bit more about it. So basically, that's why. Let me just tell you something else. For example, it is the following. We are not going to read every single part of the book with you. I'm not going to be dealing with every single detail of the book and so on. And why not? Well, first of all, because it is impossible. There is too much in the book, really too much. So it's really hard to talk about every single detail you have in the book. There is also another reason for that. And what is it? We just want you to be curious. Because if you watch one of our videos, for example, and then you go to the book, you can discover lots of things. You can be sure about it. So go there to the book as much as possible. Read it. And you can, even though we are going to be speaking here about lots of things, you can discover much more if you read the book. So that's the reason, first of all, okay? So now, for people who came across this video like this, oh my, what is that? Or who is Léon Denis? What is Spiritism? Or the person who doesn't know much about it. Let's talk about Léon Denis, his life and where he was born and etc. Okay. First of all, so he was born in 1846 in the 19th century. Okay, and he was born in the northeastern part of France. Okay. And he died in 1927 at the age of 81. So he was born in 1846. It is the 19th century. So let's think about something. When I'm going to ask you a question, when you think about the 19th century, what comes to your mind? Maybe you're going to tell me, well, all the developments that happen over there, you see, machines, industries, and etc. Okay, very good. Lots of very important things happen over there in the 19th century. But there was something that was present there all the time. It was poverty. So poverty was very present in the 19th century. Then you're going to tell me maybe, well, not only in the 19th century, nowadays there are many places where you have a lot of poverty. Okay then, but as we are talking about Léon Denis and the 19th century and Europe at that time, that's something that was really a very important aspect of the continent at that time. And if you know a little bit about literature, for example, if you know French literature, if you have read, maybe in case you have read Hector Malot or Victor Hugo, or in England, for example, if you have read, in case you read Charles Dickens with Oliver Twist and Great Expectations, or Thomas Hardy, for example, with Jude the Obscure, Tales of the D'Urbervilles, and so on. Something that is present in these books, it is poverty. And why am I speaking so much about poverty over here? Well, there is a very good reason for that. Léon Denis, his family was very poor. And as his family was very poor, he had to work from a very early age. And as he had to work from a very early age, and his family was very poor, he couldn't go to school as much as let's say, privileged kids could, and so on. And then you're going to ask me, but well, if he couldn't have that, let's say, formal education, how could he write write, let's say, philosophical books like that? Well, we can say he was a very competent, self-educated young man. That's something we can talk about him. He read every single thing. Whatever he found, it was a book, whatever. He read everything, everything. So he really got to be really, let's say, educated just by himself. And then what happened? When he was 18 years old, something very important happened in his life. Not only important not only in his life, I think, important also for the Spiritism, and also for the world, for us, I think. You see what happened? He came across this book, you see, the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec. Then maybe you're going to say, well, he came across the book. It was really chance. Maybe it was just chance, but well, if we think about everything he did, it was not just chance anyway. So, but he found the book. Well, see, he came across the book. He had the money. He bought the book. And then let's think about something before going on. This title, you see, Le Livre des Esprits, let's say, the Spirit's book, for example, it's a very unusual name for a book. Maybe you say, no, it is not that unusual. Maybe not. Nowadays, it is not that unusual, because nowadays we are really accustomed to hearing about the spirits and etc. But at that time, you see, in the 19th century, think about it, it was something really different, really unusual to have this. Maybe people should think, wow, oh my gosh, that's about the devil, about it, to see spirits writing books. Oh no, we can't believe it. It's something horrible. It's from hell, whatever. So anyway, he read the book, and something really interesting that happened. You see, after reading the book, it is said that he remarked that every single doubt he had, see, every single doubt was, you see, disappeared completely. You see, doubts he may have had about death and spirits and life after death, hereafter. Well, everything was really, see, nothing at all. So, and well, it was really good for him and also for us. Think about it. And then what happened? You see, so he was not the only one, of course. Okay, there were also more people. As we can say, for example, oh, okay, so he was a great philosopher. He was a great philosopher, okay? But there were some more people. You see, you had Gabriel Delan, and you had Camille Flammarion, and so on. So he was not alone, let's say, in all these things. But he was a very important one. Well, we can say he was the most important one, I should say, even if you think about all the books he wrote and etc. But then, and why was it so important? Because, as we know, Allan Kardec is the codifier. So he's responsible for Spiritism, let's say, to come about anyway. And then imagine something like this. When he died, let's imagine the fact he was the most important person in Spiritism. He was the codifier. He was the one who put everything together, you see, in a book. In books, let's say. So think about something. So when he died, when he passed away, using something metaphorically speaking, for example, we can say that all these guys, all spiritists, they felt as if they were orphans. And why? Because the most important person was not here anymore. And so that's why Léon Denis was so important in all that, because he was the one who really got to carry on Kardec's work a lot. See, he wrote lots of books. He really traveled around in order to present things and so on. Okay, he was not just a successor to Kardec, as many people say. He was a very, very important philosopher for that. And then you see, as we told you before, I told you in the beginning, we're going to be talking about this book, After Death. But you see, this is not the only book he wrote after death. He wrote a lot, really, really a lot. So some of the things he wrote about, let's say, so one thing here, he wrote about God and the universe, for example. He wrote about Christianity. Even, you see, important figures in history like Jeanne d'Arc, also the work of mediums, and destiny, fate. And there is even a novel, a very short novel called Giovanna. It's a very interesting novel, okay? I do think if you read it, you'll enjoy it a lot because it is really good. So if you have the chance, it's a very short one. It's really very good. But then, as we are going to be talking about after death, let's talk a little bit about it, for example. First of all, take a look at the title of the book, After Death. So first of all, when you look at the title, you just start thinking, well, if the person does not believe in the afterlife, or if the person is a materialistic person, he's going to look at the title and say, After Death, what title is that? So what a name for a book. There is nothing after death. See, how can people know what happens after death? See, nobody has come back to tell us anything about it. So first of all, the title is very interesting because it really draws attention to it. Just imagine, okay, if you are a materialistic person, you enter a bookstore and you see the title of the book. You look and you say, well, after death. Well, but what happens after death? We can speak about after birth. So we see, after birth, okay, I have my life after birth, but after death, and that's why it's so interesting. It really draws attention, and that's important. Second of all, for example, this book is important, as I told you before in the beginning. Why? Because you see, it is a very good introduction to the doctrine, a very good introduction to Spiritism. Why? Because in the 5 parts of the book, because the book is divided in 5 parts, so in each part of the book, an aspect of the doctrine is dealt with, and in each part there is a book by Kardec. We are going to see that later anyway. And also something else, this book was written after a very important congress, Spiritist Congress that happened, you see, in 1890, okay? And in this Congress, what happened over there? They were, let's say, it was, they were discussing something like, oh, there must be a book. Somebody has to write a book in order to teach people who don't know much about the doctrine, about that. We have to write a good introduction to that. And, well, Léon Denis was the one who did it. And let's see now let's take a look at how the book is divided, okay? First of all, the first part of the book is called Beliefs and Unbeliefs. And what happens here in this first part? In this first part, Léon Denis, he writes about ancient civilizations. Egypt, Greece, Rome, India, and so on. And why does he write about these civilizations? Because he's going to be dealing with their beliefs, okay, their gods, their cults, and so on. So what happens, you see, about the gods, let's say, and usually he calls them something like a hidden doctrine, for example. And why is that so? Because in ancient times, what happened at that time, for example, you see, there were the gods, there were all of them. You had Zeus, and you had Jupiter, and you have Osiris, and Isis, and all of them. And also Brahma, and so on. And what happened? You see, in general, there were some mysteries. What were the mysteries? The mysteries were the hidden part of these religions. Let's call them religions for now. And why is it so? The common people, they didn't have the chance to get into these initiations. They were not initiated in these religions, let's say. So what happened? There was always something there more. There was something more than just you had, let's say, in the shallow. You see, you could be in the shallow, but you had something. There was something deeper, let's say. All right, and he starts from the ancient time, these ancient civilizations, and he goes up to the 19th century, France. Yeah, so basically that's what happens in the first part of the book. In the second part of the book, The Great Problems, he deals with problems, as you have the title here. Then maybe you wonder, what problems? And you see, he writes about God, about good and evil, about the universe, and so on. Then you're going to tell me, but why is God a problem? Why is the immortal spirit a problem? Well, for you, maybe it's not a problem. But let's imagine again, if a person does not believe in anything, and he says, well, for that person, God is a problem. For that person, for example, the immortal spirit is a problem. Because it's really hard to imagine that. It is really, even for me, sometimes it is very hard to conceive something like this. Immortality, to live forever and ever. Even, okay, you are a spirit, but even so, it is hard to imagine. You see, our minds can't think about it, can't conceive such a thing. And for a person who is an unbeliever, who doesn't believe in anything, it's even harder. So that's why it is a problem. So you see, he starts the great problems, and he starts by doing what? He tries to solve these problems in the second part of the book. Then we have the third part of the book, that is the invisible world. In this part, the invisible world, what happens over here, you see? Basically, he's going to present the scientific aspects of the doctrine. So, as in the first part, he dealt with the ancient civilizations. In the second part, he dealt with problems such as God and the immortal spirit and the problem of even good and evil and so on. In this part over here, he's going to say, look, whatever I told you before, it is not something from my mind. I didn't make it up. No, I did not. If you think so, what happens? You see, it is really proved. It is something rational, okay? It is scientifically proved, the facts. So what happens over here, in this part over here of the book, he's going to deal, you see, with some facts, let's say the mediums, for example, you see, spiritist phenomena, charlatanism, and these kind of things. And basically what happens is, in this part of the book, it is like, well, I'm going to show you the scientific aspects of everything that I had just told you before. Then we have the fourth part. The fourth part is the hereafter. And in this part, that is called the hereafter, what happens over here? He's going to write about something like this. You see, he's going to say, you see, our behavior here on earth will lead to consequences in the afterlife. So do not think that whatever you do here, it is just because, okay, then maybe the person read the second part and in the third part and says, well, okay, so good to know. I'm going to have another life, and maybe another life, and maybe another life. So I'm going to be coming back over here to Earth, as I'll be coming back. I don't have to worry that much. You see, if I don't do something right now, I can do it later. If I don't do something now in this life, well, there is always a next life, and I can do something better over there. So what happens over here? He says, look, in this part, look, whatever you do, you see, there is a consequence. So do not think that you can do whatever you want. You can just say, okay, I'll do whatever I want. Okay, of course you can do whatever you want. You have free will, but be sure about it. Just be careful, because whatever you do here, there is a consequence over there in the afterlife. So some topics he speaks about here, it's about errant souls, the higher life, inferior spirits, reincarnation, providence and free will, and etc. Okay, so this is the fourth part of the book. Then we have the fifth part of the book that is called the straight way. In this part, the straight way, as in the fourth part, he spoke about all the consequences that our behavior can cause over there in the afterlife. In this part, he's going to write about our responsibilities, first of all. So what happens, you see, so, okay, there are consequences in the afterlife about everything I do. Okay, very nice. But okay, so, but I have some responsibilities. I do have responsibilities, right? And what are these responsibilities? So charity, that's something important he talks about here, he deals about. Charity, faith, pride, wealth and poverty, prayer, the moral law. So basically what happens here in this part of the book, he's going to show you what? As he spoke about the consequences of your behavior in the 4th part, here in the 5th part, he's going to say, look, there is a way. You don't need to be that much, so you don't have to worry that much. Okay, it's not a law. It's not something like, oh, I have to follow that. No, you're not obliged to do anything. But if you follow these kind of things, if you follow these things here, you can avoid those consequences I spoke about over there before, let's say. So here, that's basically what you have, okay? These are the 5 parts. And these 5 parts of the book After Death, they are connected to the 5 books by Kardec. And how are they connected? Let's take a look at that. So, for example, let's think about something. So, over here. So you have here, for example, the Spirits book. So the Spirits book, okay, it is present in the 1st part and also in the 2nd part of the book. Then we have the Medium's book. The Medium's book, you see, it is present in the 3rd part and also in the 3rd part of the book. So the 3rd part and also in the 2nd part of the book, let's say, all right? Then we have the Gospel according to Spiritism. And the Gospel according to Spiritism is present in the 5th part because it is about, you see, our responsibilities in the Gospel, let's say. Then we have Heaven and Hell. And Heaven and Hell is present in the 4th part of the book. And then we have Genesis. And Genesis is present in the 3rd part and also in the 2nd part of the book. So as you can see here, you have the 5 books by Kardec. And these 5 books by Kardec, they are present in the book After Death. In the 5 parts, the book are divided over there. So basically, that's what happens, as I told you before. So if the person does not know much about Spiritism, what happens? By reading After Death, this person can have a very good introduction to the doctrine. So even if the person is kind of, let's say, afraid of starting, I don't know, but there are so many things. There are 5 books plus another one, you see, the posthumous works. So let's say, what can I read first? So, well, of course, it's nice reading, I think, first of all, the Spirit's book, because it is the first one. But anyway, even if the person doesn't know much about it or doesn't understand that much, by reading the book by Léon Denis, this person can, let's say, have a good introduction. And when the person reads these books over here, what happens? He's not going to think it is something so strange and so different and so on. So guys, this is the introduction I had to tell you over here. So that's the first video, and that's just an introduction, a brief introduction to everything that is going to happen. So see you then, okay, next month. And I really hope you enjoy it, and just follow us, all right? Have a nice time, and see you then.